So
Hi,
I'm
Matteo.
Matteo, and this is
Alex
Alex,
or Alex
and
Pedori,
I'm
but
Alex Pedori or Alessandro Pedori. What's best?
I always use Alex. I mean, I grew up as Alex. Alessandro just chokes non-Italians and also chokes Italians. They will start using Sandro or Ale or whatever shortening. So if I pre-shorten it, usually people will try to stay with that.
Sweet. And what is the one-liner you usually use for yourself, like machine learning engineer, AI engineer, or just software
I'm an
engineer? Or
AI. I mean, I'm clearly an AI engineer. I mean, I've been in the different trajectories from backend, natural language processing, machine learning. I even been very shortly a data engineer, but I don't have the OCD for that. So mostly, I mean, at the moment, practically every uh, programmer is some sort of AI engineer because we all have to know something about prompting and stuff. But I've been in the field doing trying to convince people that they could hire freelancers doing something in the direction of AI from since 2011. That was difficult. I even was using machine learning because AI was too fancy. And then there was a moment where we realized, like, oh wow, we are back to calling it AI. That's great. So
yeah, yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting trajectory. But why are we recording this? We're recording this because usually we chat about AI, and I ask you about my problems, and you tell me not to do something, and then I do it. And so we thought maybe let's make it public.
I do exactly the same. I mean, it's like it's like even getting older, this idea of like, well, that applies to other people. Like, okay, no, wait, there was a reason, but it's good to know like what was it, pre-warned person, half-saved person, at least in Italian. Uomo salvato, no, avvisato, mentre salvato. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so a warning is worth a recovery or something. Yeah,
Okay,
something like
maybe
that. Yeah.
that's it.
Okay, so what problems should we discuss today? Because I think the problem
What
area is
introduced
more.
to your 13 agents? I mean, we started outlining this thing, I think 6 months ago when we wanted to make it a project together, and then I got to the like, this is not creating a couple of LLM calls to classify things. This is you want a whole bunch of intelligence doing things for you. Maybe look into some. Maybe I will not put it together just for a demo. So at the point you have been exploring the limits of this stuff on your own for the last 6 months. So do you want to tell me what you're doing and what is happening and what are the edges of what you're finding? Because I've done a bit of pre-work and I think you've been finding some of the edges that I've been finding for clients, and I have, but it's somehow also easier for me to say, well, this is what we can do. We shouldn't do that. Well, you want the that. So let's see.
Yeah, so we started in January with a simple problem statement from my part, which is I'm a public speaker and I want to reach out to more conferences. Easy, right? So what's the problem? Finding conferences, sending them an email. That should be easy. And
Yeah.
how does the Muggle solve this problem with the CRM? And so I dutifully started with
Mhm.
testing out different CRMs and seeing what they could do, etc. And I very quickly reached the limits of these CRMs. And the
Mhm.
first architecture that we were talking about together is, okay, you have a CRM at the center, and then on top, you will build some agentic intelligence that solves the problems that the CRM doesn't
Mhm.
solve. Then from there, I realized that that was, how to patch things. So
Mhm.
I started from scratch and I said, I'm going to build my own CRM because I don't need a CRM where I log in and I see, what is the current pipeline state of X. I just want a
Mhm.
CRM that produces drafts and produces follow-ups.
Mhm.
That's all. And usually I get booked because of a follow up. So that's what the system needs to do. It needs to relentlessly follow up. And then I started building it, and it worked at the beginning with the markdown files with the skills and the things. And when I saw it working, I said, exciting, let's add more stuff. Let's add more conferences. Let's create a research arm that goes out on the web and finds conference. And then let's create a development arm that extracts the information from these conferences, and then create a drafting system. And it all broke down terribly. Mm-hmm. So then I realized, yeah, go ahead.
I was curious about what part. I mean, I've two bits. One that was the point when I was trying to find, okay, you point me to a conference and extract information, but we had found out that you had all of the information on what are the conference to look for, what is worthy, what is inside your head. So for me, it was like, okay, getting that out of your head is going to be more work than trying. So I was trying to build not an agent. I mean, above all, in January, I was trying to build a scaffolding on having LLMs just to categorize or extract information. That is what I still try to do as maximum. I mean, I've been a programmer for more than 20 years, actually 27, something like that. So my idea is, if possible, I want as much determinism as possible. So is it interesting? Yes, no, maybe. If yes or maybe, extract information, and then having usually LLMs to get clear instructions what to do, instead of solve this problem for me. That I still try to avoid as much as possible agents for the finished product. So there was it. So when I realized that you wanted an agent, like, okay, you go there, and then so it was working, and then with what it started breaking when you started adding a bunch of requirements or a bunch of layers on top.
Not really. So I think volume just broke it. So, okay. Or maybe it's even simpler. Like, if I am taking the agent by the hand and doing attended work. So, hey, let's work on the next draft. I see a promising conference. It looks like da-da-da-da-da. Shall we draft it? Yeah, let's go ahead. And it's really slow and painful, but it works. And so whenever you have, I think, this is a lesson that I learned from myself. If I have a process that requires, 10 inputs a week, a markdown file, a skill with the sequencing, it works. And you can steer the LLM, you can correct things along the way. Then when I said, okay, here are 1,000 conferences, produce 1,000 drafts, that's where things like broke down, like hallucinations, wrong information, contacting the wrong people, etc., etc. And so I think we chatted briefly, and you said deterministic. So I gave deterministic to the LLM, and we started building scripts, Python scripts.
Good.
Please.
I'll say, because I was doing some homework and some checking what you sent me, but it feels like you told deterministic to a non-deterministic system. So it's tell me where was it before or the last 2 weeks? Because we had to have a call this 2 weeks ago, and then I had some life emergency, so we are 2 weeks later. So I don't know, was this going to deterministic mode before or after the last? So when did you get to the 6 laws and the 13 agents? Spoiler alert, that's where we are ending.
Yeah. So no, we're just telling the story of one agent right now, which is the moneymaker of my 13 agents.
It sounds a bit like, what's the word? Dickens? The story of one agent.
The story of one poor little agent.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. No, so a month ago we started writing code with the agent. So it was before after we were exchanging messages, but we haven't talked since then. And while I was doing this, I was beginning to create, and some deterministic parts of the system started to work really well. That was exciting because I could just say, hey, begin the process, and it would run the process. It would have what it calls gates. I'm learning all of this engineering language that I have no idea what it means at the beginning. So today I asked the system, what does closed open and close, like, fail open and fail close mean? It's like,
Actually, maybe either.
yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, it's quite one of the interesting things is that they taught me a language in a way because they start using abbreviations and stuff. But anyway, I digress. So I started.
All of engineering is is a craft of trying to share with each other best practices and learning from previous problems. So that's why things get named. And now, I want something. Like, do I want to pass through gating? I know this thing that you just told me. I could, if it was an interview where people decide to hire me or not, I could probably try to hallucinate a solution. But apart from that, no. Okay.
Yeah. So the scripts that were started to work, and the fact that the process started running quicker highlighted a problem with the data, obviously. Okay. So like if you have a process that runs more quickly, then it just highlighted that there was no real trust in the system. And so at that point I started two strategies to start to alleviate this. So the first strategy was to have Claude Code do the work and Codex supervise Claude Code. And to, instead of having to read that wall of text like, oh, this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do, I would just copy paste it to Codex and say, hey, another agent is saying this, what do you think? And it actually worked really well, and it made me discover that Codex is right now, June 4th, 2026, Opus 4.8 versus GPT 5.5 inside Codex. For me, for this agent, GPT 5.5 wins in speed and accuracy over Claude. But anyway, the system is in Claude, so it's still running in Claude. But the other thing is that I started prompting Codex to say, okay, if we were building the system today, how would we create it? And then have it run a simulation of how we would create it. And then I started refining this. And so I have a V2, V3, V4, V5 concept. And when I arrived at the V5 concept, I kind of realized what is the roadmap in order for this to actually work. But then I realized I cannot have a system in production and then a system that I'm speculating and refactoring. So I brought all of the learning from this blue sky thinking, oh, we could, if we were starting today, we could do all of this and that. And I brought it back to the real system. And right now, I would say that there's a few parts of the system that are working. Then there's a few other parts of the system that are giving me massive headaches. But there's a few parts of the system that are working, and some of them are even kind of efficient. Like I can set it to say, every hour do a number of tasks, and it does those tasks. And there is a lot of human escalation. But the purpose is create drafts, connect to conferences, and that is working. And then I had a brainwave day before yesterday, just one single brainwave, and I said the biggest burden on the user is that I don't want the system to send emails to people. I want to check them, but checking them is a lot of time, and so in 5 prompts. I've had Codex create a Firefox extension that reads the Gmail, connects the draft that has been created with all the information that the system knows, and gives me a little pane next to the draft where I can check the information that the system knows about the conference, who's the organizer, what are the dates, a little screenshot of the website where I can see, are they talking about the same thing? And a few buttons where I can open the research document about that conference, or I can open live the conference website. And at this point, between hardening the system with Python scripts that have deterministic gates, this new wording that I've learned. Look how software engineering I sound. And between this and creating this verification layer that is human friendly, where I can see, okay, so this email corresponds to what in the system is called ID 919, and so on and so forth. I have to say that today I'm pretty satisfied with the system. There's a lot of things I need to fix, but I'm pretty satisfied of the system, and I need to end this monologue.
Well, that's what we wanted. Like, that's really great. Also, because since I was up to 2 weeks ago, you seem to have solved a few of the problems. Like, at least in your 6 laws, you had something like "don't lie." That means nothing, but for every piece of information, put the quote and the source, and then you can either do what you're doing and you check it. I built that from some clients. You can have an automatic system in which you have it's much simpler to verify than to find the solution ourselves. So you can use a cheap, stupid model. Usually, quite stupid models are able to verify that is this piece of information there? Do they match up to a certain point? So you could have a checking of the data, pre-checking, and so if you want, and then having a way in which you visualize with colors and highlights and this thing and arrows for the human. And if you really wanted, you could have a bit like the spam filter level, in which if something, have the matcher evaluate the confidence of this piece of information is true, like telling you green, yellow, or maybe if it's very low confidence, just ignore it or remove it or send it back to the agent. Another thing that you are doing is that using different LLM to check each other, because if you ask Claude to check Claude, they have the same, with different prompts and in different runs, there will be different things. It's a bit like when we write in the morning and you edit in the afternoon. There is a way in which we spot different errors, but it's still the same entity. It's still me checking what I write. Like my main ideas are still mine. Like maybe I will check a spelling error, but there is something. So that is great. And adding some layer of determinism. I'm not sure if you add the two things that I don't know. If so, apparently, what has emerged as a name for what you're doing now possibly that my new label, because my own labels change every now and then. So now it's called agentic engineering. That is different from AI engineering and different even from agent or no, actually, it's harness engineering. I was an agent engineer until 3 days ago. Now I'm harness engineer. And actually, there is a bit of this idea that came up recently that I really like. I learned a few things doing homework for this call, because I usually okay, this is the knowledge I have. This is my project. I cannot keep on checking if the tools have changed. I already changed my tools while I use them, but I don't want to know too much of what is changing. So the idea that a new definition of if your system is agentic or not is your system allowed to change the workflow, the steps, or not? If it's allowed to decide what are the steps that have to go and change the steps, it's an agent, it's an agentic system. If not, it's a semi-deterministic flow that is much safer. And you implemented that already 2 weeks ago. So you have steps and in every step you have LLMs deciding, okay, if then else. Anyway, we tend to have, the gate is an LLM, possibly a judge or something that takes more information that you can do just, is this green or black? We're getting much more information, but we're still trying to get decision. What is the next step? Go back or go ahead, like your gate. And if that is written in code, it's better, because telling, as you notice, the agent, always check this before going on, works between 50 and 80% of the time. Like every now and then, like, like YOLO. So if you give, that is actually, as far as I know, even in Claude code, that there is a different system that will run the tests, so that the coding agent cannot rewrite its own tests to make them pass, because they used to do it. So the only way is if I am judge and jury, and also if I am evaluating my own work, I mean, I can be as ethical as you want, but the reliability is limited. So the fact that you're using different, so yeah, you seem to be implementing or refining why there is this agentic engineering and harness engineering and finding the hard way. So it sounds great. If you want, I have to put 2 pieces of feedback to what you could look into unless you're already doing, or I give the soapbox back.
No, I mean, my question, all of this explanation was, what happens next. So just tell me. Just spoiler me.
You are quite much on the bleeding edge, because you're working on a messy material, and also contacting, crafting messages. At least you are, you are the responsible human for sending the emails. I don't know if, I at this point, I guess they're not allowed to put them on Gmail. You have to do it yourself somehow.
No, they're on Gmail since day one. No way. No way.
It's good.
I have.
You trust that they don't click send, because they
don't. They never sent anything. No, they never. I have to say, they're very disciplined. They're very disciplined. They never sent anything. They never overstepped. But they need to the real truth layer of the system is Gmail. So they have access to Gmail from day one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense, and there are the 2 things that I have as a. One, are you still having them as they were using text as a source of learning, correct? Do you have anything more structured for when they learn things, when they take notes? Is there anything different from what you were doing?
So they have a session log, if you were asking that. So this is one other really important thing that you told me at the beginning, is tell them to write down everything.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the basic rules of the system is write it down or it didn't happen. So we have these session logs that are very detailed. And then most of the system right now stores information in JSON. So the information is very machine structured.
What I try to do when I use coding agents is that I have the normal program logs. They try to write code. The code runs, it works or not, and you have the logs from the code. And then you have the design docs, and then they write what they do it, what they are the decisions, and then I always have usually a different agent to go and reconcile. Check that what's in the design, what has been done, what's in the code, they agree, because this thing tend to drift. So and recompress it, because one thing that I, as a non-artificial agent, almost never do is going back to my old notes and pruning. So I have my Obsidian that keeps on expanding and whatever. So and the agents are good at ingesting a huge amount of text, and on the other hand are very bad at ignoring. Their word is a textual word. So having an explicit decision of check the new decision, anything in this text that contradicts it, check the code or check the last actions. These last actions are the source of truth, and then contract what is there. So to have a way that they don't have to load too much information.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that OpenClaw does Claude Code does compressing. OpenClaw also, every day there is a dreaming and deciding what to keep of the memory that accumulates. So somehow, mean, in my system, since I have only a few projects at the same time, and I still want to see the code that they did and recheck manually, and I'm paid for code that is somewhat reliable. I end up doing that, but yeah. So in that way.
I think what you're telling me speaks a little bit to what you told me also at the beginning. Like if you're building an agent, it needs to learn from its mistakes. So it needs to document. You told me it needs to document everything and learn from mistakes. So is what makes an agentic system. And so I created a skill for all of my agents that is called system review. And after a big run where we'd done a lot of things, and maybe we changed a little bit of the code, because obviously the code is deterministic, but the orchestrator needs to make decisions. And so me and the consoles that are orchestrating make decisions. And then these need to be reconciled. Because if we said, we hate the color blue, okay, blue is terrible, etc. At some point we realized, well, light blue or neon blue sometimes, or then if the constitution, rarely happens to change ideas, change someone's mind, right? So there is a system review skill, but if I understand correctly, what you're telling me is like have a third party. It's even better to have a third party that says we were going towards Milano. We were taking the A1, and we were thinking about eating dinner as soon as we got into Emilia Romagna. Are we there yet? Are we following the plan? Or are we on the A14 going to Riccione and planning to eat in Rimini? Yeah. Okay. You said two things, so I would be a bad listener if I didn't ask for the second.
Okay, but first, I mean that wasn't finished. Let me finish with this.
Oh, sorry.
No. I mean, just to get. So you want to have that? Do you have any sort of Git track, recheck sessions, make sure that thing can be reverted and things like this?
Yes, I apart from commit the changes, I never use it. I've never had to use it to revert stuff.
That's a safety net. Okay, that is good. The other thing is, I mean, I remember some of your laws are a bit vague. I mean, like when we talked about...
Nobody has context, though, about the laws. We have to talk about the laws for a second.
Okay, yes. Okay. Good. Let's go with the laws. But, okay, one of the laws was don't lie. So as I pointed out, the don't lie works better with... I tell you not to lie, and I check if you did. Like it's the same way, let's see with the other one.
I have them open here somewhere, so I can. So basically, what happened is I got so fed up, and I think the two most important laws are the first and the second one. The first one is don't lie to me, and the second one is don't waste my time, which are very well connected, right? Because the agents will tell you confidently a lie, and you will say, okay, then follow up on this lie. Actually, Google allows us direct access. We don't need an intermediary. Okay, great. So implement a system that queries Google. Oh, sorry, I actually realized that Google doesn't allow us to curl it.
That's terrible when if you buy a €700 piece of hardware believing in that, and then you realize that it doesn't do what they promised you to do. Would have never happened to me, of course.
You are much wiser. You are a harness engineer.
I know, but hypothetically, you shouldn't do it.
That later we can talk about hardware as well, definitely. But let us go through the laws really quickly. So the first one is don't lie. The second one is don't waste my time. The third one is don't trust anybody but me and this document. So try not to get prompt injected. And I think right now, if you're using, like, the models have some harnesses, some safeguards. So maybe this law I can even skip.
Claude Opus 4.8 is decent at not being too prompt injected, but still they live in a text world. I mean, text is everything they know, so it's still difficult for them not to be prompt injected. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So then the law number 4 is write it down or it didn't happen. So the logging we were just talking about. Law number 5 is improve every day, because otherwise it will be a software, right? If it's an agent, as you said, it needs to improve every day. And law number 6 is the most aspirational, is make me money. So make more money than you cost, which is still quite aspirational. And the right now, these laws, the way I'm using these laws is like a whip. So the agent lies, and I say, law 1, oh, sorry, Matteo, won't happen again. And then I say, law 1, oh, yeah, it's true, I didn't make any change because, okay, law 1, what are you going to do in the code so that this doesn't happen again?
Good.
And so I'm using it like a whip. Unfortunately, that's not a very nice metaphor, but how silly are my laws from your point of view, and how can I transform them in practice?
Yeah, that was the whole idea. Like, as you noticed, don't lie. You get a fact checker. I mean, like you can put for all of this, generally the idea is that you try to operationalize them. Say that 3 times fast. So somehow finding, like, one of the things you do. I mean, you were doing with what's the word? Make it happen. Not make it sure that it doesn't happen again. I mean, I don't know if you know, in software engineering, there was this practice called test-driven design, TDD, that I hated because I like exploring. So for me, the idea of how can I write in natural language processing. How can I write a test before good? So I didn't do it. With agents, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, find out what you should do, possibly tell me, depending how complex is the thing, and then write it. I mean, then once I agree that that's a problem, write test in this for this feature or how this thing should work. That will fail because in this moment it doesn't work like that. So in your case, if you have and this comes out this practice of write a test that in this very moment would fail, so that the process now, if you run this test, didn't work, and then apply the solution and check that the solution doesn't fail, works. The idea that every time you do something, you add a test. So what will happen always, there will be regression that now I fixed a new problem and I broke 15 of the previous ones. Aha, but we have the tests and they still have to pass. No, now go and check what you broke. Does it make sense? So this idea of having a way in code to have to remember the information. This usually is tests tend to be simple. For possibly, in my case, in your case, probably would still have to run LLMs, but maybe not. But you would want to try them to be as cheap as possible. The other bit would be to collect evals. Example, your make me money. That's great. I have no idea what it means. Like, should the agent know? Okay, this is the monthly cost. This is the ROI. How do they operationalize that? So that is a bit complicated. For other situations, improve all the time. Even that, I don't know what does it mean. So they would be like having, like, if you manage to have a closed loop in which you take some of the information and you send that back to the agent, like, okay, so and the problem of your case is that what you can measure happens very rarely. Like you getting scheduled by a good conference. I mean, maybe it happened twice in May, but or what I just ran. But was it for the work that you did in May, in April? Was it just a fluke? Was someone that saw your video from 10 years ago? Was it a schoolmate? And how can the agent know? So there would be some way of finding an evaluation framework that is close enough to the truth that it works, if not the usual, oh my God, the law that says that if you start measuring the result, then you will, okay, the brain is not getting from
Self-fulfilling prophecies law.
You know, but when you're measuring the wrong thing and people will start optimizing
For the wrong thing, yeah.
Optimizing the signal and not the real thing. Like Conward law, something. I know this, but of course now it's not coming to my brain.
No, I have a simpler way to explain that, if you don't mind the interruption. If anybody has seen The Wire, there's from the show, legendary show from HBO, there's this all of this season that is about the police department at some point, and what they're doing, they call it juking the stats. So they are recording only this many arrests or these many felonies because they're evaluated by the statistics. And so basically what you're saying is, how can you create a system where then you don't create this bias? Well, it's what's happening with AI right now. So there's some companies that are asking their employees to token max, and so they will just use AI for everything. Like
they change their mind really quickly because tokens got really expensive.
Yeah,
like during the last couple of months, Uber had that their budget for the tokens for the whole 2026 was blasted by April. And so they are realizing that the tokens is a measure of an input. So it's not a mention of an output. But yeah, it's very difficult to measure. I mean, years ago when I was studying, when I got my master in computer engineering, they were saying like, oh yeah, one of the measure of productivity for programmers is line of codes per month. And like, what? Like, I can write junk code. I mean, like sometimes I'm incredibly productive if I remove half of the code base because that's easier to read. Or so it's a bit like, it's very, very difficult to measure creative work. And now AIs are getting into the direction of something that is somewhat creative work. So like, is the bigger book better than a thin book? Depends what you want to do. Possibly as a weapon. So yeah, finding and just when I tell you how to, collect some evals, but that's the problem of everyone. I mean, like, I beg my clients, give me some good humans that can evaluate what the agents are doing. And like, no, we don't have them, or they take so much time. Like, yes, but we're flying blind. Like, I can use agents to evaluate agents, but we're still just like, this is slightly some level of what's the word? Cargo cult. So somehow, we're trying to find out how the thing works.
Oh, by the way, really great suggestions, and I cannot wait to send the transcript of this podcast to my agent so that it can start, because they can already measure the ROI. I just need to tell them, this got booked, and this was the revenue, etc. And I
can also send you all current research and my Obsidian text that I put together from several conversations, that if you want also give it that with all of the thinkers and all of the new studies, so they can have a blast doing.
I would love that. I would love that. Thank you.
That's great. So how much do we expect people have an attention span?
No,
I
people
can
are
be
washing dishes. I don't know. Like we're 39 minutes in, so we haven't covered like the family of agents, but maybe that's for another time. So I've asked you
Yeah, also,
what
I'm not sure you told me in advance. I mean, you sent me the laws. You told me that you have 13 agents, but I have not that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I heard more or less that you have the research branch and you have the implementation branch and things. So I guess there are different layers of this. Anything that should or what are your I am interrupting you. I have a question, but I will wait until you said what you were saying.
No. So I think we can leave some stuff for the next one, because obviously there's going to be more questions as I implement this. I still have a question for you, but I want to first listen to yours and then.
Oh well, but mine would be what are the main lessons learned from this experience, like in your work, in your work. Be concise.
I will.
Up to
I shall.
5 bullet points.
Don't do it. That would be.
Reminds me. Okay.
So the first no, so it's it a lot of time wasted. A lot of time wasted is the first thing. The second thing is that there's a feeling of infinite empowerment because humanly I can produce 10 good drafts in a day, and the system right now, as it is right now, can produce around 30 a day, and it's already like three times as, and I need then 5 minutes to review, maybe 10 minutes to review these 30 drafts. So the productivity.
It was a crazy time thing to do it, but now when it works, it feels very empowering.
Yeah, when it works, it feels extremely empowering. I think
Am I allowed while you speak to share something in my screen, because that's probably
Yeah, if it works, I need to. There you go. I will.
Loud.
Let's see. I say okay. Yeah, you're on. You're on, and we can see your screen and we can see your video as well. There you go.
Yeah. So that's that's a user case idea. It's oldish, but that's more or less what happens. Welcome to when we automate something, and this is usually what engineers and programmers are like. Of course, I will just do it, and so you're welcome. This is happens, and if you have fun doing it, or if it works, it's great.
Yeah. Let me see if I can add myself again. There you go. Yeah. Absolutely. Sorry, I completely lost my chain of thoughts at this point.
You said don't do it, but when it works, it's very empowering. There is a sensation of power because you went from taking hours to do something to when it works, it takes you 5 minutes. So there is the moment of. It reminds me of the dopamine hit when you the roulette, like
Yeah, that is definitely intoxicating. Like the whole agent system, I've published videos about this. I've given talks about this, so it's like I don't want to repeat the whole thing. It's absolutely intoxicating. I think the other thing is that this field is moving so fast that what I'm wanting to implement for my own system is actually one agent that has the only job of once a week going on the internet, figuring out what other people are doing, what are the new skills, what are the new command line tools, what are the new systems, and then downloading them and implementing them in the background without me knowing, because most of the time I am still the one solving the problems of the system because I was on Twitter and I saw, okay, there's this new tool. And maybe the other thing that I've discovered is that people tell you that SaaS is dead. And yes, SaaS might be dead, even though there are some tools that I still need to use, like my system uses HeyReach to go on LinkedIn because it's not able to go directly on LinkedIn. Plus, my system now has its own subscriptions. My agent, it's not only using Claude Code or Codex, the plan, so the monthly allowance, but it's also using cheap open router models. Those cheap open router models over the weekend cost me $140. And it's using, it needed to research 2,000 conferences. So it uses a service called Serper that gives you search results, SERPs, from Google. It uses contact augmentation, email finding services. I don't want to say which one because I'm switching because it's terrible. But so now my agents have a bill besides the bill of Claude or OpenAI, and it's kind of inevitable because they need to go out on the internet and figure things out, etc. And not all of the tools can be installed. And so this is another dimension. Like I had no idea that 6 months ago I would have never told you that confidently that yes, I have a budget for services that are used by my agents. And that I have no brand loyalty. I have no loyalty with these. They're just API calls. So if somebody offers me the same quality at a lower price, I will go with them. So I think these are like the main learnings.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, for me, the other thing that I can see from what you're doing is that you are, I mean, fighting on the bleeding edge. I mean, that was when we were talking. I mean, we started talking about this when agents started to be smart enough to actually be trusted to do what you wanted to do, but at the beginning. So people have been people have been implementing what you have been implementing. In some cases, they were coders, so they wrote more harnesses and tools, but you are, solving the problem is becoming possible. Not really knowing, the famous Jagged frontier, like you are not really knowing where it is or not. I mean, what we're getting now that models tend to be smart enough that at least the decently frontier ones, but even some of the decent non-frontier ones, that the harness can make it possible. That started to be on the horizon 1 year ago. So realizing like, okay, we have a certain level of intelligence that, if you focus and tunnel vision them and give enough information of what they're looking at, these models are usually quite reliable. And so it becomes the harness to make sure that you're pointed in the right direction. You check if they, I was trying to explain it not long ago to a connection that he has the idea of engineering as you design a clockwork and it works the way like you do it and it works. And for me and for him, the idea that LLMs are grown and not designed, and then we try to find out what they can do, and then we try to shape them and train them and focus them, for him was just like, oh, this is terrifying. And apart from, will AI kill us all? I don't know. I hope not. But apart from that, for me as an engineer, I am the kind of engineer that actually find this very fascinating, because this is mostly like, okay, you gave me a new tool, a new plant, a new method, a new something that we have to find out what it can do, what new problems it can solve, what are its limitations, and how I engineer around the limitation. Because, okay, for some reason, I'm thinking about the kind of houses in south of Italy that are built with super porous, super fragile material, tufo. And if you tell me, well, I want to use that as bricks, I will tell you, you're completely stupid. On the other hand, it's a great insulator. It's white. It keeps houses livable in the middle of summer. So it has incredible properties that at this point, we know we want those properties. I will have to design the way the house is built and the way I use this material so that I can use this property without wanting it to be concrete. That is not. So this is still engineering. This is like, okay, this is this tool. Oh, now that I have this tool, I can solve the problem. It solves it 50% of the times. Okay, fine. So how do I make it solve 70, 80, 90, 99? Do I have to repeat 100 times and sample, whatever? So there are ways in which, okay, this is unreliable, but it is more in the direction. So I find it I mean, for me as an engineer, fascinating how this is becoming clearer with this kind of tool. What is the engineering part? And being a I like tinkering. I'm a bit the MacGyver type. I like languages. At the moment, this is making the part I don't like doing as an engineer more, oh, the machine can do it. And the part I like doing it is testing, exploring, designing, experimenting, trying new things. What I have to do, it's great. I hope it stays like this. But so it's interesting. It's becoming engineering. And yeah, you have been on the bleeding edge. And I mean, I was last week trying to implement something on the bleeding edge with Google Live API, and it was a lot of bleeding and a lot of edges. And at the end, I had to grab because it wasn't like, oh no, this you cannot do from the browser. What do you mean? Like, oh, you need to have a server, but I don't have a server. I want to do it from the browser. Oh, and this API doesn't work with the Gemini API key. You have a different API. No, but my client cannot give me that. Like, it's just like, why? So it's just like, and then I switched to using Gemini to get me help, and it was kept on like being like, yeah, I am sorry. As a Google AI, I have to say I'm sorry. This API is unstable. They keep on changing it. I know it makes no sense. No, it doesn't. It won't help if you can tell me that makes no sense. I know it makes no sense, but still, what you want to do, you cannot do it. Like, so that was really like, oh wow, bleeding edge. It's great. So
Yeah.
as
I
long as
think
you enjoy learning, it's great.
Yeah, I think this is a good note on which to close. One of the smartest things I've heard in the past few months is actually the later you start developing with AI, the better it is going to be and the easier it is going to be. So it's quite a crazy time. Like if you want to do this arbitrage opportunity, obviously start now or start yesterday and build your agents. And if you like learning and if you like a little bit of pain, like we both do, then just stay on the bleeding edge. You're gonna bleed.
Yeah,
and
I stay on the bleeding edge mostly for my clients. That's a bit like what
Yeah,
I really enjoy. Like if the client wants something at the bleeding edge, I'll go there. For me, I really like using the tools from 3-4 months ago. That I mean, there are moments where like I should go into plumbing because the fact that when I say, "Oh, I want to stay with established tool and technique from 3-4 months ago," I'm like, really? That I mean, the state of the art, what we know, like this is a reliable engineer of like with a pipe and the gray beard is from 3 months ago. Like, okay, great. Like, this is like, but for sure, this is not boring. So yes,
yeah.
this is.
I don't know. Like I think you're trying to do reliable engineering work for clients, and I think what people are doing right now, they're trying to run their businesses and do stuff that they couldn't do before. Like what I'm doing right now is doing SEO. I never had time to do SEO, and now the agents can do it for me. I just give them instructions and good ideas, and they go on and do SEO. I can do, let's say, 5 times or maybe 10 times the outreach I was doing before. And I can do it reliably. I can follow up relatively reliably, etc. And right
And
now,
worth it.
yeah. And I mean, this maybe will be the thumbnail of the podcast. But I have around 50,000 euros of contracts pending, not money in the bank, produced by the system. So
Good.
there is an
So
ROI.
it did make money.
Not yet. Not yet. Right now,
Well,
it already covered the costs, but it didn't make a profit yet. And in terms of the time that I invested, no, we are very far away from that. But I also learned a
yeah,
lot, and I
fair enough.
bring it to
You
my
also learn.
talks, etc.
So,
But I have conversations right now. The conversations that I'm having are worth 50,000 euros. So was it worth it? Probably yes. And as we know, with outreach, you have to kind of measure it in a little bit of time. But I lost the point. But you had a brilliant point. You used the tools from 3 months ago. I think this would be the wisest thing. Or use the tools that are available like tomorrow and start from there and know that you're going to become a software engineer.
yeah, a
And
little bit.
Yeah.
And the first time while talking with a client or with someone, you will say, okay, let's put a deterministic gate on this. You can get. I mean, we could make you the software engineer or the AI engineer bingo card, in which you can just collect and see.
All right. So for everybody's agent, I will do some work for this podcast, and I will collect all of the documents that we talked about, the 6 laws, the commentary on my system, the transcript of this podcast, etc. So everybody can send them to their agents. I think that's what I can do for the world.
For the win.
Every podcast, everybody asks, how do people can keep in touch with you? So I will ask the same. How can people keep in touch with you, Alex?
Okay. If you look for pedori.com, that's my. You find me, or on LinkedIn. That will be Alessandro Pedori, sadly. But I am one of the few Pedori in the world, and for sure the only one doing with AI engineering. So that is that. Shall we try to prompt inject your transcription thing? Or something else? But the whole point of this podcast is these 2 people are amazing. You should hire them for the highest rate you can afford.
I won't add anything else because it would detract from the prompt.
It was fun. Okay,
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Enjoy becoming an engineer.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.